Hello everybody, welcome to episode 11 of Shonen Shorts, where today we'll be going over the April 12th issue of Weekly Shonen Jump. Now this week I read, I believe it was chapter 12 of Under Doctor and chapter 10 of Alien Headbutt. So I'll try to briefly go over those. So we'll go over Under Doctor first. Under Doctor picks up where it left off in the last chapter, where we see as Haji is poking himself with his own finger to kind of hit his vital points. And I was right in the fact that he was doing this to power himself, because the name of this chapter is Overload Haji. Now what he did here was give himself a power-up known as Overload, and we get to see him have some like SSJ2 or Super Saiyan 2 like electricity around him. And we see as he just instantly speed blitz, I'm just calling him Maxwell because that's what Maximilian Carter is called predominantly throughout this. So Maxwell, he ends up bringing up to Maxwell, hitting him with this move called Median Flash, and he legit moves so fast that Maxwell can only see the after images of what Haji is doing. So that was insane, because Haji was getting pieced up before this, and now we see him absolutely put the dukes on Carter. And Carter realizes now that Haji actually had a chance against him, and Carter gets excited. And before this chapter, there was a warning actually about discussions of suicidal ideation. So I knew this was about to get some crazy good lore here. But so yeah, we see as this happens to Maxwell, and he remembers a time in his childhood when he fell down and scraped his knee. This was the last time he truly felt pain. And it kind of reminded me of that scene in Naruto when Rock Lee makes Gaara bleed, and he's like, blood, blood! But except Maxwell didn't crash out, he got excited because he's like, I can finally feel pain, I can finally die. So we see that he flashes back on this, and he gets to talking with Haji, and he's like, do you even know how old I really am? And he tells Haji that he's in fact 80 years old, but due to how his body is made and how it's composed, he is essentially immortal, and he doesn't even know if he's human or not. He believes he's more monster than he is human. And we see that when they originally met up and discussed about like his lifespan and all that, we saw that like Maxwell's goal throughout his life was legit just to die, because he didn't even know if he was possible of dying. He wanted to die to prove that he was human. And so we see as a flashback where he's talking with Haji about his suicidal ideation, his desire to die, just to show that he was human and that he wasn't some monster. But then we see as they fight a little bit more, and then ultimately Maxwell's like, you know what, if you're not going to fight, because Haji's like, I don't want to kill you. So he's like, you know what, if you're not going to kill me, then I'm going to kill these people in the hospital room that you're trying to save. So he ends up breaking down the wall, and Haji rushes up to him, and he's like, I'm not going to kill you, Carter, and I'm going to help you get through this. And that's kind of where the chapter ends. So that was a really good chapter, honestly. One of the, probably, I would say the best in Under Doctor so far, because that was just a sick chapter all around. But, yeah, I cannot wait to see what else happens with this fight, because I know it is going to be a great fight, because, I mean, this first couple of chapters with it have already been goated. But then we get to Alien Headbutt, and we see where Uga has successfully landed Zoldra, and he's ripped out the parasite. He ends up giving it to Tatsumi, and him and Haruya are kind of freaking out, because they see, like, the little, like, swiggly vine things coming out of Tatsumi's side. They're like, I don't know if this is going to work. And Uga's freaking out, even though Haruya's the little kid. But Haruya is Tatsumi's little brother, by the way. I don't know if I've specifically named him in one of these videos. But, yeah. So we see this, and then ultimately Haruya's like, okay, Tatsumi's going to be fine. You still got to go save Yuki, which is Uga's sister. And so he's like, oh, yeah, I do got to go do that. So he ends up going, and we see as he has a flashback to when, before he was leaving to go participate in pro wrestling, where his sister gave him some money, and she's like, I'm making an investment in you. But once you make it big and become a champion, you got to buy me a $1.2 million, I think it's like a Chanel necklace. And Uga's like, what? But ultimately, he ends up going over there, saving Yuki, getting her down, and they have a nice warming reunion. At first, she's like, who are you again? But she's just joking with him, because she obviously remembers her younger brother. And they're just kind of talking briefly. And she is just really awestruck by how much Uga has developed. She's like, are you still that little kid that like cried in the first grade over just some stupid stuff? And he was like, that was all in the first grade. But then they ultimately end up talking a little bit more, and she mentions the Chanel necklace and the outfit to go with it. He's like, Brody, this is not the moment for that. But then after that, we see as like those elite aliens end up pulling up. We see the spiky one with like the full black body and just spikes looking like Pinhead from Hellraiser. And we also see the one on the motorcycle. Now, I was wrong in the previous video to presume that he was human, because someone brought it up that he does in fact have pointy ears. So he is obviously not a human, or not like a human symbiote or something like that, because it has the pointed ears, so therefore it's most likely alien. And see as he pulls up on his motorbike, and we kind of see as they're briefly yapping it up a little bit, goofing around, and the spiked one's running, and he's like, why won't you let me on your bike? He's like, you break my bike. He's like, this is a Harley, buddy. And so they end up driving over there. And we see as the spike one ends up pulling up to Uga, and they kind of briefly talk, and we learn that these aliens actually can speak human language. They speak Japanese. And well, you kind of say they briefly exchange, and he's like, "All right, pal, I'm gonna kill you, you blue planet monkey," and that's where the chapter really ends. But yeah, that's all it really was for chapter 12 and chapter 12 of Under Doctor, chapter 10 of Alien Headbutt in the April 12th issue of Weekly Shonen Jump, and that's all I really have for episode 11 of Shonen Shorts. So thank you very much for watching.